Hey everybody, today I'm talking about my top 10 board games that will stay fun forever. Now what I mean by that is that with all of these board games I have no concerns that they will lose any of their luster or their magic despite numerous repeated plays. And I have no concerns at all that these games will be overexposed or that I'll get bored with them, which is a natural thing I do. My personality, I don't like to go back to the same thing again and again because I don't want to kind of lose that feeling with certain games. And I can even say that with a lot of my top tier games. My top 10 games, I'm very cautious not to play them too regularly because I don't want them to fall out of favour or be to change my perception of them too frequently. But I've got a good variety of games here and hopefully something that can pique your interest. So before I get started on the 10 games, I want to give a shout out to the show sponsor, Kienda.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code, then you can get 5% off your first order. But let's start with number 10, and number 10 is Wits and Wagers. So I think this is the only party game on the list, and it's one of my favourite party games of all time. It's a game about kind of guesstimations as you are given a numerical based question. How tall in meters is the Eiffel Tower? How tall in meters was the tallest giraffe ever to exist? And you're writing your answers on a dry erase board. And once everyone's done that, you're revealing them. And then depending on the answers, you're going to place them on this kind of odds betting table where the extremities, the furthest out there answers, are going to be worth higher odds than the ones in the middle. And the coolest thing about this game is that you do not have to be good at trivia. You can bet on other people knowing the answers and do really well that way. But of course, if you are getting the answers right yourself, you'll get some bonus points too. I've played this so many times, I'll never get bored of it. I love trivia-based questions anyway, and this is just the best example of that. Because again, you do not even have to be good at it. You can bet on other people at knowing the answer, and it's such a great kind of touch to level the playing field. And yeah, I just love this one. At number 9, I have Chinatown. So the best negotiation game out there on the market. So this one, a bit of a free-for-all really, as you are kind of collecting these different lots of these shops, populating them with restaurants, laundromats, this kind of thing. And the more of them you can connect together, the more income you will generate. But you do have to negotiate with the other players to get what you want, because everything is up for trade in this game. The lots you control, the tiles you can place on the board, and it's all about trying to leverage your state of play against the other players with what they want. And I just love the way that the rules of this game just get out of the way completely. It's all down to the players. And again, you're not bogged down with fiddly rules or referring to the rule book for this or that, what happens here and there. It's just up to you. You can do what you want. But at the same time, the game is robust enough to kind of hold up to scrutiny and to keep the game on the track and on the rails, which I think is such a great blend of, again, that player control, but with the game keeping you, in order. A fantastic game. You do have to be in the right mindset for it. And I suppose more maybe outgoing, more verbal players are going to get more from it because that's where the fun really lies. But it's such a great game, and I've had some of the best gaming sessions of my life playing at Chinatown. At number 8, I have Caesar's Empire. Now this is a game that I seem to have kind of taken under my wing, and I'm one of the only people who will really advocate this game. I think maybe a big part of why it didn't take off as much as it could have is because it's a real lightweight family game, but it's quite expensive and overproduced. And the company who printed it are out of business, but I think someone else is picking it up. But this is kind of my kind of Ticket to Ride style game. I never really clicked with Ticket to Ride. This one I thought was way better, as you are placing your little legions of troops onto this map, always spawning back to Rome. As you spawn out, you will start collecting different tokens, which get kind of set collection bonuses and so on. But the cool thing about this game, and what makes it unique, is that when you finish your turn, you will trace the route back from where you've just reached all the way back to Rome, and then for everyone you pass through, they will get a point. So you can try and piggyback off your own routes, but sometimes to get to the best tiles, you need to go through your opponent's routes, and they'll get passive points that way instead. So I love the way that the player interaction is kind of bred into the foundation of this game, and you always need to consider who is getting the net gain. Very minimalist. It's a brilliant gateway game. In fact, as good as it gets when it comes to introducing people to modern board game mechanisms. That is Caesar's Empire at number 8. At number 7, a more kind of a refined game with Babylonia. So Babylonia is a Knizia route building style game, as you are placing these tokens from your personal rack onto a shared board. And what you're trying to do is you are trying to touch and surround these different kind of cities. And once a city is completely surrounded, it will score, and you'll score points based on these symbols matching now that will chain through it. But it's all about trying to connect things together and to kind of piggyback each scoring off each other, because if you just score in isolation, you might do quite well for a quick grab, but if you start chaining things together, you can score those things again and again and again. But of course, the real estate on this board is very finite, so people will jump into the spots you want before you can get there, and you really do need to grab that land before the other players do. Wonderfully balanced. I like the way that you can go for the different things. You go, do you want to get those quick point grabs? Do you want to build that big chain? Do you want to go for these temples and get points that way? It's just a brilliant design, and it feels like one of Knizia's classics, and is quite modern. So that's good to see that he's still making phenomenal games. This one just feels like a timepiece to me. It's just wonderful. That is Babylonia at number 7. At number 6, I have Condottiere. So Condottiere is a card-based war game that's pretty out there in the way that it works. So you are just trying to control different regions on this map, and by winning battles. But the way you do that is through very clever hand management, as you are playing these troop cards, as well as these bonus cards that will really mess with the rules, such as doubling the strength of your troops, or making everyone's troop worth 1 strength each, or lots of different things you can do. But it's all about how you pace yourself, because this game works unlike anything else, because you don't actually replenish your hand until very irregular intervals. So you kind of need to stay nose to nose with the other players. If you burn through your cards too quickly, then in the future battles, you're going to just have no firing power at all, and you're going to keep losing. But at the same time, you don't want to go too slowly, because you've already lost all the land, and the other players may force you to discard your cards because you've just taken too long. It's a genius piece of design, and it feels like a classic. This is a game that goes back 20 or 30 years now, but it kind of has really held its own identity, and it feels like kind of the card equivalent to a lot of those other classic area control games. So that is Condottiere at number 6. At number 5, we have a more traditional Euro with Hansa Teutonica. So this is kind of the Euro gamers kind of purist design. Anybody who's really into Euros will say how great this game is, because it is just like it's kind of like a blueprint of how to make a great Euro, with super easy rules, great interaction, super cutthroat, good degree of engine building, route building, but it's also well refined. So in this one, you are essentially trying to populate these roads in order to gain presence in these different towns. You'll get points if people fill those roads and you control the adjacent towns. But at the same time, you need to increase your engine by going to the same spot again and again, in order to maybe increase the amount of cubes you can deploy each turn, or to make yourself much efficient when it comes to taking cubes back, or to increase the yield of points you get by your endgame scoring by building routes together. Again, so well balanced. The game pulls you in tons of different directions. It is nasty. You do have to be prepared to block people deliberately, because if people spend extra effort to kick you off a spot, then you get to spawn twice as fast. So the game does come with, some almost forced take that, but there's no way around it really, and it's not for the sake of it. You are doing it to improve yourself rather than just to hurt your opponent. But it's one of the cleanest designs when it comes to Euro mechanisms. It's a work of art. So that is Hansa Teutonica at number 5. And number 4 is a game that I talk about a lot on the channel. This is For Sale, one of the quintessential filler games, one of the best auction games on the market still. This one, you are using your very limited cash in order to acquire these different properties. All these property cards will range from 1 up to 30. Once you've done that phase and everyone's got their portfolio of properties, in the second phase, you will use those properties in a blind bidding system to acquire these checks, and that will come out randomly, and then basically who's got the most money at the end of the game will win. This game, well, it's proven already that it's going to keep on staying fun, because I think this is my most played game of all time. And once you've played a game 70 times or so and it's still just as fun as the first, there's not many games that can say, that can say that, and that goes to show how good of a design this one is. I've not lost any enthusiasm since I started the channel 8-9 years ago, and I'm still talking about this game now, which goes to show how good it is. So again, I'm sure if you're watching this channel, you're very aware of this game, and it should be in everyone's collection. At number 3, I have Rumble Nation. So this is almost my go-to area control game that takes it's way quicker than most area control games, because it's only about 20 minutes to play, maybe a little bit longer. But it's a dice-driven area control game where you're rolling 3 dice per turn. 2 of those dice is going to show which area you can spawn your troops into, and the third one is going to show how many troops can go into it. And basically, once you've exhausted all your troops and they're all deployed onto the map, region by region, going from lowest to highest, they will get resolved and points will be distributed. But if you win the battle, not only do you win the points, you will spawn troops into adjacent regions. So there's this huge kind of like a cascading thing that goes on, and it kind of builds upon each other, and by the end of it, the state of play changes dramatically. But you can almost backtrack, and you can foresee what is going to happen. So despite being a little bit wild when it comes to the dice rolling and where you can deploy troops, the game is actually extremely meticulous, and you can plan things carefully if you want to make make optimal decisions. It's a beautifully elegant design, despite having dice rolling in it, which is something that I'm not normally that keen on. But the dice in this game keep it moving forward, and it means that you're not overwhelmed with decisions. And it's just, I think it's almost like a perfect design. And it's so good that this game is back in print as well. So that is Rumble Nation at number 3. At number 2, I have another dice game with Rapido, also known as Escape. So this is my go-to push your luck game. Again, I've played this tons and I still love it. It's a game where you are trying to climb this staircase before the other players do. And you're going to do that by rolling dice. If you roll like an X on one of these dice, then you're going to go bust and you're going to fall back down the staircase. But of course you can reserve your space if you bank your turn at a certain point. But the difference of this game is that you don't only get move forward when you roll doubles. If you roll like a double 1, you'll move 1 space. Double 2, you move 2 spaces. But you can actually choose when to stop, which will not only again reserve your place, but it'll also put you on another staircase, which you can determine yourself. And if you go highest on the staircase and you're still there by the time it's your turn, then you'll go up a certain amount of spots. And you can kind of pitch that as you like. Do you want to play it safe and maybe only go 1 or 2 spaces, or do you want to gamble that no one's going to reach that number or high as you've rolled and move tons of spaces by the time it gets back to you? It's such a great little twist on like a can't stop mechanism. This game is directly compared to Can't Stop. They're very similar, but I just love those extra like gamified mechanisms that Rainer Knizia adds into his designs. This one, again, the best push your luck game out there in my opinion. That is Rapido at number 2. And finally, at number 1, we're going to stay with Rainer Knizia with Ra. So Ra for me is such a versatile game because it feels like It's got like the fun factor of like a party game. It's got the layers and the meticulous bidding of a Euro game. It's easy to approach or to get into, so it's like a family weight game at the same time. So I think it can just dips its kind of things into so many different genres, which makes it so playable. So if you're not aware of what Ra is, it's an old school bidding game that's been around for a long time now. And you're going to be using these fixed bid tokens in order to acquire these tiles that will be drawn from this bag. Now all these tiles will score in different ways. Some of them will be positive, some of them will be negative. Some you want to have the most of at certain times, some of them for endgame scoring and so on. But the way they come out is obviously pure random, but it's how you utilize those bidding tokens. You don't want to fill up the table too much if you only have low bidding tokens. So you want to just pitch these tiles against your bids just right, so that your opponents aren't, or to force your opponents to overspend, but to get value for yourself. It's quite a hard thing to wrap your head around until you play it. And this is definitely one of those games where the more you play it, the more you understand the game and you start to, again, unravel those layers about how well designed this game is really. The depth here is quite remarkable once you kind of open your eyes and really experience the game to its fullest. It's so good that this game has almost had a resurrection in the last couple of years, since it's had some very nice reprints. But this one's been in the board game kind of sphere and been relevant for 30 years now, which is really impressive. Not many games do that. How many games that come out now that are 1 or 2 years old, they were the hotness at the time, and now nobody talks about them. Everybody still talks about Ra because it is that good, and I play it all the time. I love it each time, and I just love the way you have to act so tactically, meaning that every time you approach this game, you are doing it with a fresh mind and trying to get the best bids or the best offers with the bids you have to put up there. Perfect when it comes to design pedigree and just how meticulously well this is put together. That is Ra at number 1. So there we have it. That concludes the video. Hopefully you have enjoyed it. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to the channel and check out my other content too. But for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.